Welcome to
Introverts, Own Your Voice. I'm Tom Marcoux.
And I'm Johanna McLeod.
This episode is how to nail the speech or pitch of your life. We're talking about that a certain meeting where you pitch your product or you pitch some startup company. This meeting or this pitch in front of an audience can change your life. Now, this is really clear to me because I was just in Thailand and I coached someone, and this gentleman, he's the founder of something called Sportito. He won the grand prize of the entire pitch competition.
Wow.
So, Johanna, I have a question for you. What do you think might hold you back from giving the best pitch or speech of your life?
Confidence.
I'm right there with you. And confidence, which I say often with my clients and my audiences, confidence is not comfort. Confidence is a toolkit, and you work it. We're going to briefly go into what does it take to have more confidence. And we're going to use the word now, because in order for you to give the best speech or pitch of your life, you need to do something now, every day, so that you can raise the level of your true confidence. Every letter is going to stand for a method, and N starts with nurture, rehearsal, and coaching. When have you been coached about something, Johanna?
I remember specifically when you coached me to give a great workshop.
What made it great?
I had the confidence because you helped me rehearse until I understood what I was doing and I could actually answer questions that I was afraid of answering.
Wow. I am so glad that that worked so well for you. And that's the whole point about rehearsal and coaching. I know people, I've talked with them, where they say, oh yeah, I've been rehearsing it in my mind. Or I've been rehearsing it in my room or to a mirror. And the point is, until you're interacting with people and until you have a coach who's watching what you're doing and seeing what works and what's not working. As I mentioned, I was recently in Thailand and I was working with the audience and having them rehearse and having them try methods and showing them that when you express yourself and you can pay attention to how it's being received, in the moment, you can be great. But that's a combination of rehearsal and coaching. And it's also about getting your body language and your words to be congruent so that they support each other. One of the things that often gets an audience laughing is I will say, I'm so confident. At the same time, I'm walking backwards a couple of steps and I'm rubbing my hands. It's called self-soothing. I call it pet the cat. So I don't look like I'm confident, but my words are saying I'm confident. You got to make it congruent. But without a coach to see what you're doing, you don't know if your body language is actually torpedoing your message. Our next method is O for organize if-then patterns. If you see a certain look on the investor's face, then you have ways of going into a different direction or shifting a little bit so that you can bring them back to where you want them to be. If-then patterns. If they ask you a really tough question, I work with clients all the time. I say, what's the most horrible question that they could ask? And then we have alternatives, at least 3, so that if they say this or if they ask that and it's, oh, that's the question you were hoping they wouldn't ask. And you have 3 alternatives, then you're in good shape. If you only have one way to respond, you're in bad shape because what if something came up early in the conversation where they don't like elements of that one way of responding? So you need 2 additional ways. So if you are prepared, and this is what I do with my clients, if you're prepared for the 10 worst horrible questions and you have at least 2 answers for each one, now you are super prepared, more prepared than a lot of people. Because now you have 20 answers.
And they ask the one that you don't rehearse for.
But you can improvise because you had a coach and you've been rehearsing a lot. And anytime you feel fear, you do some rehearsal. You can call your own answering system. Use your cell phone and call your own answering system and rehearse right then and there. If you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you're feeling concerned, do a little rehearsal. I invite my clients to rehearse for 9 minutes every morning before they brush their teeth. They know they're going to brush their teeth. And if they just rehearse for 9 minutes, they are going to have their subconscious mind working on the material all day.
Mm-hmm.
See, my degree is in psychology, and I keep up. I read up to 82 books a year, keeping up with case histories about what works. How does the brain work?
Mm-hmm.
How do people communicate in ways that get the yes? That's why my website is called getthebigyes.com. Organize if-then patterns. That's how you get the yes.
Mm-hmm.
W of now stands for wonder about the best results they want.
Oh.
I'll say it again. Wonder about the best results they want. So let's say you're pitching. You're thinking about what does the investor really want? Now, a lot of people do the generic stuff. They emphasize, oh yes, this investment will yield a 5 to 10 times amount of revenue. So you're doing so well with your investment. You got 5 or 10 times over your investment. That's lovely. And it's so generic.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have to pay attention. So often when I'm working with clients, we are developing multiple slide decks that target different types of investors. You've got the impact investor. You've got someone who only wants to talk about total available market. You've got the investor who's really into sustainability. And when we're talking about wonder about the best results they want, maybe what they want to be able to do is to brag about how they are on the cutting edge. Or they want to talk about at a dinner party, I'm so into sustainability that I invested in this thing because it's really going to help millions of people reduce their carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm.
You need to target what are the best results those investors want. And it may be bragging rights.
Mm-hmm.
It may be being one of the people who are in the know. There's often the phrase FOMO, which means fear of missing out. Some investors missed out on Facebook. Some investors missed out on Amazon. Or whatever thing that you hear about. They don't want to miss out. But what specifically do they want? What are the best results the person wants? That's crucial so that you will deliver the speech or pitch of your life. This is the turning point, the tipping point, when you're able to communicate so powerfully. I often work with CEOs, founders of startup companies, and they have got to communicate so well because they must demonstrate that they have this CEO approach and CEO strength and CEO trustworthiness so that people will invest in them. As I've raised money for my own projects, people invest in me. The classic story was that Ross Perot invested in Steve Jobs' company Next. But when asked, he said, no, I invested in Steve Jobs. I'm not really sure what he's doing with that company Next. But I know that if Steve Jobs is doing it, it's going to be powerful. It's going to be successful. He invested in Steve Jobs. How do we know if we should invest in somebody? It's how they communicate. Can you trust that they can get the idea across? Can you trust that they can get new alliances? Can you trust that they can get other investors? It's all about how you rehearse and get coaching so that you are extraordinary. We invest in extraordinary people.
Yes.
This looks like a good time for a Marcoux moment. That's when I share an excerpt from one of my 47 books up on Amazon. The book we're talking about here is Soar with Confidence. An executive coach reveals secrets, lies, and countermeasures so you excel like top CEOs and leaders. Now, the topics in this book include pitch, lead, succeed. On page 91, it's called Pitch Advantage number 3, Structure Your Pitch Effectively. And so I'm going to share a couple of details that are on these couple of pages. It was the 4th pitch in a row that our group heard that evening. No, not again. I watched the faces of the investors. No connection. The 4th person also failed to get funding. All 4 people made big errors. Parentheses. This shook me up so much I ended up writing a book, Darkest Secrets of Making a Pitch for Film and Television. Close parentheses. So I go further into this section and I see the concept called Prepare Your Mirror Neurons. So on page 92, it emphasizes that what you need to do is you need to get your neurons, your brain cells, to serve you and your project. And you do this by rehearsing recovery methods, preparing and rehearsing for the worst questions, and rehearsing so that you conduct a dialogue with your audience at crucial moments. These 3 actions ultimately enhance your confidence. When you're confident, the investors pick that up. They become confident in you. So the idea here is that on page 93, when possible, talk with people before your pitch.
Kind of the meeting before the meeting.
Exactly. And find out what's important to them. Find out what they're looking forward to. With the right rapport, you could even ask, oh, is there something you're looking for in particular for a project you'd like to invest in? In order to have confidence and to pitch with great skill, we need to look at all those things that I just mentioned in this excerpt. So this is material that's in the book, Soar with Confidence. And now I'm curious, Johanna, what are you going to keep from our conversation?
I think the one thing that I really find valuable, because you help me do it, is to rehearse with questions that I don't want to answer.
That is having multiple answers per each tough question.
That's correct.
Exactly. And that is what we talked about with NOW, these various methods. And N was nurture, rehearsal, and coaching.
And you're a great coach, by the way.
Well, thanks so much. I'm so glad you got so much value from our sessions together. Thank you, Johanna.
Thank you, Tom.
We're glad that you got to hear this message. And often, I'm able to help people in other ways. For example, they ask, Tom, what is it that you do? And I reply, I'm Tom Marcoux, spoken word strategist and executive coach. I help people really connect and get yes. I help them with their speeches, pitches, video marketing, and networking. My background as a feature film director means for decades I have helped people pull out their best performance. And you can find me at getthebigyes.com. For articles and videos, go to getthebigyes.com. Also, visit yourbodysoulandprosperity.com. We're glad that you heard this broadcast, and we invite you to
Click to subscribe.
and then you'll be supporting me and Johanna and our message.
And so now remember,
Introverts can show their best self with strategy.
I'm Johanna McLeod.
I'm Tom Marcoux.
Thank you.
Be well.
Bye.